on how to develop an effective workflow for TimberScan AP routing with presenter Vivian Frazier. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone will be in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. If you need to step away, please do not put your phone on hold. If you have hold music, it will play for everyone. This webinar will be recorded, and we will email out a copy to everyone within a day or so. I will now turn it over to you, Vivian.
Thanks, Krista. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Well, today we're going to talk about effective workflow in TimberScan, the operative word here being effective, okay? So let's just talk about what we're going to cover today, okay? In order for your workflow to be effective, all right, you need to do certain things in your setup. So we're going to talk about the things that really work towards making your workflow most effective in the setup. So we're going to look at some of those items. We're going to talk about the order of the routing rules and why that's important. And we're going to look at some of the actual workflows and how to assign criteria and look at some and how to set up some exceptions. Okay. Then we're going to actually go in and look at how to enter some enter invoices, approve invoices in a couple of different ways, because there are a couple of dashboards that we can look at that might be newer. Some people may not have seen those more recently, how to attach some documentation. And then lastly, we're going to look at how to do some reports, inquiries, create some PDF files, like export stuff to Excel really nicely. And if we have time, we can look really quickly at the accrual process. So we're going to go over and get into the software right now and get started. So here, I'm already signed in as the admin user here, all right? So one of the first things I want to draw your attention to is in the settings under the routing rules. I want to talk about these because this is a big factor in making your workflow effective, okay? The key to being effective is to try to minimize the number of steps, right, that we're doing in our process. So if we're adding more steps to our process, then it's less effective. The trick here with your routing rules is that you want to focus on trying to use as many of the routing rules that are already part of your coding. And as you can see, these routing rules are the ones that are used in TimberScan. They're here in an order, and this order is important, 1 through 16, okay? All of them, except for the very first one, are items that are already included as part of your coding, okay? So you do this anyway. You enter your invoices, you enter the commitments to the extent that you need to, your vendors, your jobs, cost codes, categories, all of that stuff, and your GLs, okay? All of that stuff is already entered, so you're already doing it. So to the extent that you can try to use this information to tell the system how to route this invoice, that helps your routing then become more effective, because the person sitting at the data entry seat doesn't then have to think additionally and realize, oh, okay, this invoice has got to go to so-and-so because it's special. And you know, sometimes it goes here, sometimes it goes there. Obviously, if there are special situations, then you need to be able to do that, right? And usually the invoice type is what allows you to do that, okay? So it does. So there is a custom field here, which is the invoice type, that allows you to customize your routing. Now keep in mind, you add it as a coding item at the time you enter the invoice, but it doesn't go into Timberline. It's just for TimberScan approval purposes, okay? So that allows you to override the normal routing that might be used for an invoice in order to make it special. People use it for priority invoices, for rush invoices, for certain kinds of things, and we'll talk about those. But I want to talk really quickly about the order of this stuff, okay? As you can see, that the order is important because the system goes through these types of, it looks at each one of these combinations, each one of these items or combinations of items in this order. So if you tell the system that a vendor should should be routed to a specific individual, okay, it will look at the vendor, and once it sees that that vendor is going to that individual, it will stop and it will send that invoice based on that vendor. It won't go any further to look at the job because the vendor is at a higher level than the job. It's number 4. Job is number 13. So it's in this very specific order because as you use these items, a job and cost code combination that has to get addressed and go to a specific individual is in a higher order than the category or the job itself. So if, job A and cost code B have to go to certain, to a certain project manager, and then cost code B goes to somebody else, it'll look at the job and cost code combination first and send that off, and then all the other cost codes as B, it will send to somebody different. Okay, so that's the reason for this order, and that's why it's particularly important. So you want to try to set up your rules to make most effective use of the coding that you are already doing. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about here with respect to the routing. So let's quickly take a look at some of the workflows. Okay, I already have some set up here. We don't have enough time in this session to actually set them up, so I'm going to show you some of the ones that are already here. I'm just going to go through a few of them. For instance, Betty, she's approved some things on her own. After data entry, they go straight to her. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, Bob Builder, same thing. All right. Here's our default. This for equipment invoices, we've got 2 people addressing equipment invoices. We've got Adam, and anything over $10,000 goes to Monty. Okay, so this will be an area where it's specific because it can go to, these equipment invoices can go to multiple jobs, but they're going to be specifically addressed. So this company is saying that all equipment invoices we want Adam and Monty to look at in this order under these circumstances. And then I'll show you in just a second how you would set up using the routing rules to make all of those invoices go to Adam and Monty. Okay, rush invoices. Okay, so rush invoices have no approvals. We're going to set those up, and this is going to be based on a custom invoice type, where at the time of data entry, we decide that this is rush. Maybe it's already hand approved. We want to just get it into TimberScan, and we're going to process it real quickly. So that's the time when we're going to take the extra step. In addition to the coding, we're going to give it an additional item of coding to allow TimberScan to know that this one is a rush. Okay. Okay, John. John Jones has got a couple of different approval. He's in a couple of different approval workflows. Okay. In this one, in the field approval, Adam looks at the invoices first. Then John looks at them. Anything over $1,000 goes to Paul, and anything over $10,000 then goes to Monty. Okay. So these are certain approvals that he will approve. And the next one is also items where John are John's jobs, but those are the items where John approves those first, then Paul, and then anything over $10,000 goes to Monty. So they're slightly different. So what you need to remember is that every time your document must take a different route to a different person for one reason or another, you need to set up one of these workflows. Okay, and then assign the appropriate criteria to that workflows, and you can have as many of them as you like. So that's really the trick to making your workflow as automated as possible, rather than having the person sitting in the data entry seat deciding, oh, well, this situation is unique, and these kinds of invoices go to so-and-so, but I only have John and Paul and Monty. I need Adam in there, so I'm just going to send it to Adam manually and then let it go. There are probably some of that stuff going on. So what I want to try to point out is that you can really automate more of those unique workflows if you really, really, think about it and try to get the coding working for you. Okay. Here's some additional overhead invoices are going to be seen by Adam. He just sees those by himself. Paul and Monty see certain of Paul's jobs. That's a test one. And then we have a few others here. These are all pretty straightforward. Okay. So those are some examples of items that you can ways that you can make your approval workflow effective by using, you can use the same person in multiple workflow groups in order to make sure that all of these scenarios are covered, okay? So this window, the criteria window, okay, right next to the approval workflow is the criteria window. So this is where we would set up the actual criteria, which was in that routing settings window that we saw. We would assign that to each one of the individual people. So let's look at a couple of good examples here, for instance. Equipment invoices. Okay, so with equipment invoices, we've decided that based on the category, 2 categories, and a company, these are the items that are going to go to the equipment invoices approval group, which was the one that I talked about, which had, I think, 3 people in it, and those people were going to see these invoices in that order. So every invoice that has an E for the category, an ER for the category, or is part of company 22. Okay, so with the categories, it's going to look at the category first, because if you recall, on the routing rules, category is higher on the list than job or cost code. So it's going to look at the category and say, well, if it's an E, I'm going to send it off to the equipment people because that's who we want to see it regardless of the job and cost code. Okay, so that's how that logic works. All right, then when we go down to the invoices that are already approved and we're sending them into the rush approval group with no approvals, those are just based on an invoice type. We have a unique invoice type created that's called priority, and when we assign that, the system looks at nothing else. It just goes just based on that first item, which is the invoice type. Okay, so that's what makes it override the rest of the coding. John. Okay, so here's John Jones field approvals. So on John Jones field approvals, you'll notice here this is a combination. What we're doing here is we're making a combination. We're looking at a combination of jobs and categories. So we're saying that for these jobs, and only these jobs, and the material category, these items are going to John as the field approvals. Okay, so John is also looking at items for these jobs. Okay, 3 and 5. If you notice here, 3 and 5 for material only is going to John. Okay, and 1, 2, and 4 is for material only. But when it comes to the rest of the stuff for the other jobs, he's only getting 3 and 5. So 1, 2, and 4 are going to go to somebody else for everything else except for materials. Okay, so that's kind of how that works, because that combination of job and category is higher on the list than the job is. Therefore, those items are going to go first to John and then to whoever it is that's on his approval group, and everything else that might be related to one of those jobs is going to go to somebody else because that's lower on the list of routing rules. Okay? All right. So I think that pretty much covers looking at the flows here. Our overhead invoices are going based on a GL account, okay? Because they're not. There's some GL accounts and also some vendors. You know, you can mix and match your criteria here. Companies, some vendors that are specific just to overhead. So the system's going to look at that and just send it off to the overhead company. Okay. And I think the rest of these are pretty. For instance, Tim is looking at jobs 11, 12, 14, and 15. And I think, who was it that was looking at 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 9? I think there was somebody who was looking at 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you compare those to where John is looking at just the materials on those jobs, somebody else would be looking at the rest of the information for those jobs. I'm not sure who that turns out to be. It might be. No, it's a different person. Now, Bob Builder is looking at specific cost codes. He's our demo guy. Okay, so if you look at these, all cost codes that are the demo cost codes are going to go to Bob, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter the job. So for those jobs that were John Jones is let's say, even though they may have demo on them and the job is set up to go to John, because the demo because these two demo cost codes are set up to go to Bob, even on those jobs, because the cost code is a higher level in the routing rules than the job is, the cost code is going to drive where that particular invoice goes, even if it might be one of John's jobs, because we've already said all demo jobs, all demo cost codes, regardless of the job, go to Bob. So that's how that works. So if you can find ways to use that to make your workflow, to make your routing of your invoices be as automated as possible via the system, that will help make your workflow more effective. Okay? All right, so I'm going to now, let me just take a look. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to sign out of the admin, and I'm going to sign in as an individual. Okay, a couple of things from a data entry standpoint that I want to show you that will make your data entry go hopefully a little bit more smoothly and a little bit more effectively. Okay. Okay, so the first thing is in the invoice entry area, okay, well, you're going to have your regular invoices, and for those of you who are using supporting documents, one of the tricks I think that is kind of obvious, but I want to make sure that it's clear. You really want to try to focus on doing your supporting documents first, because obviously whenever you go in to do your invoices, you want your supporting documents to already be cataloged and already be ready and in there with all the information so that the system can try to help you find the supporting documents that you need. If your supporting documents aren't coded yet, then whenever you enter your invoices, it's not going to be able to find them. Okay? So this is, I'm not going to actually go in and enter supporting documents. I have some that are already in there. But this is another way in here, your invoice selection window. It's another way to try to help speed up or make your workflow a little bit more effective. And that is, use your coding here. If you've got invoices that are already partially coded and you need to go in there and look at only a few things to move forward, then go ahead and use these selection options. These are like conditions, okay, where you can say, okay, I want to look at a specific vendor, okay? Or if you have a bunch of things in there that you've had in there for a couple of days that you're waiting for information on that you don't need to work on right now, but you've just acquired something new, a batch of new stuff, those are going to be invoices that are not yet coded, and you want to just focus on those. You don't want to have to filter through all the ones that already have coding. So we'll just use those. Okay? So you pull it up and you just and the system will give you just those items. Okay? You can also, real quickly, if you want to get to, say, the end of the items that you've already looked at, if you click on your Finish button here, you can go right to the end. Okay, you can double click on the last item. This doesn't tell you, because your codes aren't in yet. You don't know which ones are what from looking at that list. But if you know that the items that you just put in are at the end, you can go straight to the end using that finished list, and you can grab those last invoices rather than having to go forward from the beginning. Okay, so that's one way of doing your data entry. I'm not going to actually do data entry here right now. What I am going to do is show you a different way of doing some data entry. If you go to the File menu, see this Show Data Entry screen. I'm going to click on it, and what it does is it kind of gives you a little bit of a dashboard, okay? And it gives you these pictures of what's out there in your data entry screen, okay? So what you can do is you can go through, if you have just a few minutes and you want to just do a quick select of the invoices that you want to do data entry on, you can go in here and scroll through this and select a handful of invoices that you want to come up on your list, okay, and do an Edit Selected Batch up here, and then you get your window for just the ones that you want, okay, and as you can see, here's my message saying that my workers' comp is expired, and my other insurance is expired. Okay, so here, this one is already coded. Okay, so it's already coded. All right, but what I want to point out here is this is my special coding. Okay, so this is all this coding I normally do. Here's the item, my type that I would do special coding on, and it's up there in bold and red, basically to say, hey, you know, pay attention to me because I am going to be the way that this invoice is going to get routed, regardless of the rest of the coding. So be sure that that's the way you want it to go. Okay, check requests go to somebody specific, expense reports maybe go to somebody specific, regardless of the coding. Legal invoices are some of the exceptions to the rule. They may go to a job, but you may not want the project manager approving those invoices. You may just want somebody specific approving expense reports, legal invoices, things like that. Priority are those rush invoices that we talked about that have no approval. So this one already came to me and somebody said, you know, I really got to get it paid. I've hand approved it. Just get it in. You can just enter it, put on the priority, and it'll go right to final review so that nobody has to approve it and it doesn't have to wait for that process. Okay. So in data entry, this is a real quick way, you know, a nice quick way of using this dashboard is a quick way of selecting some invoices to do your data entry on. Okay. So now I'm going to go out. I'm going to sign in as an approver. Okay, and show you a couple of things there. Okay, so PPJC1. All right, so as the approver, I'm John Jones. Okay, down here in the lower right-hand corner, you can see who you're signed in as. All right, I can go to my approval queue and open it up. And as the approver, for the most part, this conditions screen or invoice selection screen is a little bit more effective than probably at the data entry level because you have more stuff that's coded. You can actually sort it. Vendor, company, job order, okay? Or again, I'm the approver. I have 30 plus invoices in here, but I only have 5 minutes, or I have less than 5 minutes to get a few things done here, okay? So in order to make my time with TimberScan effective, I can use this. I can focus on a specific vendor and say, okay, well, I know, you know, Baldwin Painting has to get their stuff in, otherwise they're going to lean my job. So I want to get them done really quickly. Or I want to focus on a specific job, okay, and I can look at the items specifically for that job, okay? So I can look at those, and it'll filter my list to be only those items, and it'll tell me up here how many items I have in this batch, okay, up in the upper left hand. So out of the 30 plus I had, there's only 8 that are related to this job. So I can probably get those through those pretty quickly, or at least some of those without having to, you know, scroll through all 30 invoices that I have. And here are my messages that I get first. These are my comments that have been made that are part of the log of the system. Okay, so these are set. They come up automatically for me to see. My insurance again. Okay, so I see all of that. Okay, so I do my regular approval. Click on my approval, click on the finish button, okay? And this is sort of the standard way of doing things. As I can go to a specific invoice if I know that this is the last one. Again, I can go to a specific one right from this list, okay? But I want to show you a different way, okay? Again, if we go back to the file window, over to the file menu, we've got a dashboard here. This one is pretty cool here, so I want to show you that, okay? You've got a few different dashboards as the approver that you can do different things with, okay? I've shown 4 of them here, but there are actually, if you click on this panel on the right-hand side, there are actually 7 of them that are pre-built dashboards that will show you this information sliced and diced in different ways. ways that could be beneficial to you at different times, depending on what it is that you need to do at this particular moment. Okay, again, you have 30 invoices, you're an approver, you've got 5 minutes, maybe you have 10 minutes, and you've got a priority list. Okay, you know that you want to focus on invoices by vendor, let's say. Okay, so again, in a real quick visual, it shows you here by number of invoices, in this case, by number of invoices, who's got what. Okay, so my Webbers and Wombats Plumbing, they look like they're a pretty even bunch here as far as being number of invoices. So they have the majority of my invoices. I may want to focus on them. Now, if I look at it by dollar amount, it's very clear who's got the biggest dollar impact of the invoices that I have to approve, and that may be where my focus needs to be. Okay, you can do that by vendor, you can do that by job, okay, by dollar amount. They're pretty much, they're similar, okay? So it's clear that my first one, my NW Food Warehouse, is the one that has the biggest dollar impact. I may want to focus on those, okay? I also may want to look at discounts. The information that I have in the system right now doesn't have any discounts, but if you use discounts and making sure that invoices are approved in time for the discount may be a huge priority in your company. And if it is, then one of the dashboards for your approvers should be this days to discount, so that they can focus on the one that has the fewest days to discount, so we can get those approved, get them, back over to accounting, so that accounting can then get those paid in time to catch that discount. Okay. Same thing with the aging. If you've got invoices that are just old and you want to focus on the older ones, so really you can set these up. You can set these dashboards up according to what is the most important thing to you as a reviewer and also as a company, in order to make your workflow most effective and get things processed that are most important to get processed. Okay, and you can change these as you need to. If I decide I really only care about looking at things by vendor, I can turn all the rest of these off, and you can turn them on and off as you need to. Save the settings, click on refresh, and I get just my list of vendors. Okay, so let's just quickly go in and see how I would do this. So if I go into Webbers, I know I've got quite a few invoices for Webbers. There are two ways that you can see these invoices: by card view, okay, which gives you a real tiny little view of the invoice and some information. Okay, you can look at the comments from here, you can approve it right from here, you can edit it right from here. Okay, and when you edit it, you can open, it goes back to this window, all of the items that are available to you through this window. Normally when you enter it from your approval workflow up here, are available here. Okay, so you can process it just like you normally do. All right, I'm not going to refresh it because I didn't do anything there. All right, you can also see this in a grid view. So again, depending on how you like to work, you can enter this in a grid view. You can quickly look at the comments and see what the comments were for this particular item, because a lot of times, you may already know the nuances and the details of this invoice. You don't maybe necessarily have to see it in a big screen. This may be enough information for you. And if it is, you can just go ahead and click it. Okay, this one's approved, this one's approved, this one's approved. I know what those are all about. I'm going to approve those, and then I'm going to approve, oops, no, I don't want to approve all of them. I'm going to approve the ones that I've selected. I'm going to approve them. Sure, I want to approve them, yes. And they come up as processed. I say okay, and they move on to the next level. Okay, and these invoices are not completely finished being coded, so this is a control in the system. I'm supposed to finish coding them as the approver. I didn't finish coding them, so it's not going to be able to send them. So that allows me to know that I can go back. Okay, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do the editing that I need to. If I click on this, I can open it up, and I can see that probably something is missing. There you go. Cost codes and categories are missing. So I need to drop those in real quick, and then I can finalize it. Okay? All right. So those are some nice, quick ways of actually doing the approving. And, if you don't have me here talking and explaining all this stuff, the actual approval process really goes pretty quickly. You can get through a lot of invoices in 5 minutes, you know, especially with, you know, project managers who are on top of their job. They know what they're, you know, they know what they're looking for. They know what's coming. So they can get through these really quickly and really nicely. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to show you that I try to show during my trainings, and if you guys have been trained by me, then you should probably know this. But what I want to show you is if I go into here, for instance, if you use 2 screens, okay, you can very nicely work with this particular screen, okay? Because what you can do, whether you're data entry or approver, you can grab by the top bar here, this bottom grid, that's the data entry grid. I can take it, I can disconnect it, and I can move it over to a second screen. And that allows me to do my data entry, okay, and my, you know, keying on a different screen than where my invoice is, so I can really see a big picture of my invoice. If I've got a bigger screen, then I can see the whole invoice without having to always go in and out and zoom in and out and move up and down and take all the time to do that. So that is one of the small little steps that could help your workflow be a bit more effective as well, because then you're not spending all that time zooming in and out and doing stuff like that with the system. So that's a really nice little feature. And then you can just grab it, bring it back, highlight the little area of this icon that you want it to dock in, let go, and it will dock in its normal place. And you can dock it, you know, on either corner of the window. Okay, so that's another quick thing of making your workflow a little bit more efficient and effective. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close my dashboard, or hide the dashboard for now, and I'm going to show you a few inquiries. Okay, I'm going to go into the inquiries. A couple of things that I want to show you about inquiries particularly is how to send information to, how to look at it on a report, how to send it to a PDF file along with copies of the invoices, along with copies of the images, and then also how to send information into Excel. Okay, so when I go into an inquiry, I'm going into a job inquiry, okay, because I'm using jobs because that's probably the majority of what people are going to be using. So I'm going to look at everything. I want all my invoice statuses. I want invoices that are in TimberScan and also in Timberline. I could do one or the other if I want to look at just paid or just open. I can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to look at all dates, and I'm going to look at specific jobs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at NW Food Warehouse. All right, so let's say I have a reason to send a particular amount of information to somebody for this job. Actually, you know what? This is what we're going to do. I had in the software, and some of you may have this, using your one of your distribution fields as a requisition or a draw field. Okay, I have quite a few clients who do that kind of stuff. You may assign a requisition number to your invoices because that's the requisition that this particular invoice is on, so that you can then do a report and send it to either a bank or to a customer, or to whoever else that might need that, you know, that list of invoices for that month, whether it be a particular month or a particular number of requisition or whatever that is. So there are some invoices for this job. Okay, so let's say I'm doing requisition 2 for this job. Okay, so I would go to my requisition field and just highlight everything that's requisition 2. Now all of a sudden I have a list of everything that I have labeled as requisition 2. So this is a really quick and easy way of grabbing all of those invoices. Okay, now if I'm just looking at stuff, I can look at everything from here. I can go all the way to the right. Oh, I've turned off my, if I right click on my headers here, I can put back on the comments, the log, and the image here. Okay, so I can view those items. I can actually view the image right from here. So if I want to just be looking at stuff, I can do that. But more than likely, if you have something like that, you're going to be needing to send this information to somebody. Not only a little list, a report of what is on requisition 2, but also a copy of every one of the invoices. And since we've got all these in electronic format already, let's watch this. So we click on the report, okay, and this report is going to be, okay, NW warehouse, and it's going to be requisition 2. Okay, this is my requisition 2 report. I'm going to go ahead and send it to an Adobe Acrobat file. And I want it to be one file, including the report and the images in one file. I can do it in separate files if I want. Okay, I can do just the report only. I can do the images only, each in a separate file, or only the images in a combined file without the report. Okay, I can do all of those kinds of things. And as far as the pages of the invoice, I can decide which pages I want to include or exclude. I can include all the pages, or just the first page because I just want a quick, just a quick view of what was on that invoice. And if you already have TimberScan, then you have seen the approval page. When I'm sending these invoices, I may not want that approval page to be sent with it to whoever it is that's getting this requisition. They may not need that. Or they may want just the approval page. Okay? So those are the options that you have with respect to creating your PDF file. So I'm going to think of these groupings as totals, subtotals. So I'm going to do this by vendor, let's say, or I could do it by cost code. All right, maybe it's more important to do it by cost code if it's a requisition. All right, and I can print them with or without the annotations. All right, so you can choose that accordingly. All right, so I'm going to say okay. It's going to build the report in the background, and it's going to tell me, it's going to ask me to name the report. So this is going to be a test NW for January. Okay. So I'm going to say it's going to create the report. It's going to tell me when it's done. The more information you have, then the longer it's going to take for these reports to get created. It shouldn't take a super amount of time, but remember, you have images. This is organizing the data. It's compiling all the images, okay, and it's got to put them all into the PDF format. All right. So it is going to take a little bit if you have a very big list. So, and of course, it also depends on the processing power of your machine. Okay, so my report's done. I'm going to go out to my desktop, and it's this one. So this is my PDF. Open it up, and boom, here's your report. It's the name that I want. I'm going to zoom in, because if I can't see it very well, then you guys probably can't see it very well either. It's just so here's your report. Okay, these are my subtotals by cost code. Now these two weren't approved, and they did not have cost codes, and that's why they're listed up here, because they weren't fully finished as far as being coded. So maybe selecting by cost code is not necessarily the way to do this report. Maybe by vendor would have been better. In our case, or just go back in and make sure that these items are coded. Okay, but I'm going to go to the next page, and my invoices are in order. Okay, there's my ballroom painting, and this is the purchase order that's associated with it because it's more than one page. Then this is my next ballroom painting. These are duplicates, obviously, for my for my testing purposes, but you would have your individual invoices. Here's my Simon's Ford, which is the third invoice on the list. Okay, if I go back to my baldwin painting, then Simon Ford. Okay, and then after that were the Wombats Plumbing. Okay, so you're going to get all your invoices in order. Okay, along with their supporting documentation. If you have this, then these are my supporting documentations for my invoices. If you have checks that you have attached as part of your supporting documentation, those are going to be included as well. Whatever it is that you have added as supporting documentation to your particular invoice, then those are going to be included. Okay? So that's how to send a PDF. Now let's say I want to create an Excel file. All right? So I'm going to, for an Excel file, I'm going to actually take these last columns off because they don't go over to Excel. other than like a path, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to export. I'm going to click on Export to Excel. Have to name the file. Okay. Click on Save. Go out to my desktop. There it is. Open it up. And there's my whole table just dumped into Excel. Okay? Highlight this and just organize my columns. Okay? Real nice, real neat, real easy. Okay? So I'm going to minimize the Excel here. Well, what happened to it? There we go. Okay, I'm going to minimize that. Minimize my Excel. Okay, go back to TimberScan here. Okay, whatever you want, whatever columns you want to show up in your Excel file, you can right-click and you can add or delete the ones that you want or don't want. Okay, that are available here. So you can very nicely and very easily limit your export here to whatever information you want and then dump it into Excel really easily, really nicely. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. I think that pretty much covers the reports. I just want to show you really quick an accrual, how to do an accrual, because I know that a lot of people don't necessarily do accruals, but a lot of people do. I particularly hate doing accruals, but it actually makes it, TimberScan makes it really easy, and one of the reasons why I hate doing accruals is because compiling the information is a real pain in the neck, okay? So when it's not such a pain in the neck and it's easy to do, then there's a better argument for actually doing your accruals at the end of a month, okay? So the information that's in TimberScan is obviously not in Timberline yet. Okay, so if you're getting ready to close the books and you have a bunch of information that is still in TimberScan that you need to accrue, here's a nice, easy way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go to my utilities. I need to have the, be a supervisor, at least. Okay, I would go to my accrue invoices. There's some setup that's involved in this, but that's something that is pretty straightforward, and that would be something we can, we can talk about if it's something that you guys need help with. This is how you would actually do it. Put in your dates that you're cutting everything off. Okay. Tell it if you want to do reversing entries, because it will do that for you as well. Okay. I've already gone through the compile process. Okay. So you would click on compile. Once you clicked on compile, you would have the review ability. So I'm going to click on review, and now it's going to show me all my invoices that meet my criteria. Okay, so here are my invoices. This is everything that meets my criteria to be accrued as of a specific date. Now I can decide by this checkbox on the left-hand side whether I want to accrue these or not. These are just the ones that meet my criteria. I don't have to accrue every single one of them. I can accrue just the ones that I want. I can select them, I can unselect them all, or I can select them all. Or I can, individually unselect certain ones if I don't want to accrue those, or if I only want to accrue those. And then I can create a report. Okay, so if I click on the report, it's going to give me a report of what is being accrued. Okay, now once we're ready, I'm going to just show that real quickly here. So here's your report. There's the GL accruals, then there are the job cost accruals. It tells you what's getting accrued where. Okay, so it makes it really easy and really nice to have all the documentation for your accruals. So when I'm finished with this and I've decided what I'm going to accrue, then I'm going to just click on the accrue button. The accrue button is going to create a file for me that I'm going to then turn around and import right into job cost. Okay, and this file, okay, I'm just going to save this file. Okay, and I'm going to close this, and my file is here. I think it's this one. This is not the one that I just did. Oh, you know what I did? I saved it someplace else. I don't remember. Oh, you know what? I think it saved it. I don't think it saved it on the desktop. I think it's saved it someplace else in my documents, probably. No, okay. I don't know where it saved it. But anyway, you get the gist here. It's a comma-separated file. It would just be a list of all of your invoices. This is one where I just did one item. It creates the first for $233, okay, going to these accounts, and then it does the reversal, okay, as of the following period, okay? So that's what it does, and then you just bring that and you import it into Timberline, and your accruals are done. So it could literally be that fast, okay? So that's one of the things that I particularly like, because it makes something that, you know, I've always hated to compile and do. It makes it much easier. So I think we've kind of been at this for a bit here. So I think that is pretty much what I wanted to cover. I think we can open up the floor to questions at this point if we want.
Okay, so the first question is if we want, this is towards the beginning, if we want category E company A to go to one person while category E company B to another, would the system look at the company after looking at CAT?
No. The system does not look at two different criteria. It only looks, it goes to the first criteria that it finds on that list of routing items. Okay, it goes through those in that numerical order. When it comes to the first one that is assigned to a particular workflow group, it goes based on that one. If there's a second one that is assigned, then it won't reach that one. That's why they're in that particular order. Okay, so that's something that we'd have to look at to see if there's a different combination of items that we would be able to assign so that it catches both situations. Okay, but it doesn't look at two different criteria. It only looks at two criteria if they're combined together, like that job category combination. Okay, but it won't look at two different criteria on your routing rules list. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Hopefully.
Are there any other questions? Please type them into the box if you have them.
Was that the only question? Because if it wasn't, I mean, if it was the only question and I didn't quite answer it, maybe you can clarify what I didn't, you know, what I missed.
Okay. Well, they can't talk to me, so if they write back something else, let you know.
No, I know. If they write back, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. So the next question is, the cost report uses Timberline miscellaneous worksheets as a platform. Does TimberScan interface with this?
Miscellaneous worksheets? Unfortunately, no, does not. Only TimberScan uses data that's only in AP, actually. The information that is, because it's invoice-based. It's vendor and invoice-based. So it uses the information that's related to vendors and invoices in AP.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay, it doesn't look like it. So if anyone decides they have a question later, you can certainly contact us after the webinar.
Yes.
We want to thank you again for attending today's Lunch and Learn session. We will be emailing out the presentation recording to all the attendees within the next day or so. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Our contact information will be in the email as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.